So we have started with these industry forums with the consultant teams, and then we're going to move forward to do similar industry forums with contractors. And I believe, especially in the times that we're living in with supply chain issues, with inflation, it's so critical that we do come together as an industry and we collaborate, we participate, we hear from you, we tell you our challenges, and you provide ideas. You're the experts. That's why we need you, and that's why we want to collaborate with all of you. So with that, I'll get started. And it's basically meant to be an update of our capital plan, the projects that are coming up. But also, I would like for it, or we would like for it to be kind of a two-way conversation. So if there's anything that you see for us to improve, at the end we'll have a Q&A, and you're always welcome to reach out to us and ask any questions or recommendations that you can have. Valeria, can we go to the next? Oh, the clicker, okay. Okay, so this slide you're very familiar with. Our goal is to, in the very near future, not have the consent decree and ocean outfall anymore, because that would mean that we had been successful in completing those two regulatory programs. It is a desire not only of our director, but our elected officials, that we do not enter in a future consent decree. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to do a lot of planning. We need to look into our assets. We need to manage proactively rather than reactively. So that's our goal. Our first goal is to meet those two programs, and then to remove them from this slide and concentrate on really upkeeping our infrastructure and planning for the future. As you know, there's also two new programs that are very dear to our director and our elected officials, which are the Water Reset and Connect to Protect. And we'll be talking about those two programs later in the presentation. There's also our pump station resiliency. This is so critical for us right now, especially with the rains and the intensity of the rain that we have had in the last few days. Started the wet season, and immediately we had, we saw issues, right? Everyone that watched the news, you saw parts of the county that were being flooded. So what can we do as a county in order to remedy those issues? And as I was mentioning, asset management. It's critical that we do start a very asset management program, because it is that what's going to prevent us from getting into another consent decree. So our capital plan, we're very close to submitting our budget to the Board of County Commissioners. As you're familiar, the Board of County Commissioners approves WASD's budget on a yearly basis. Typically is the two meetings that are in September. So we have submitted our plan, and the plan is looking at a $7.8 billion. So the difference from last year, which was 7.5, is the 300+ million that are being allocated for Water Reset. So it is critical that the budget is approved so that we can move forward with that new program, so that we can invest in our water plants. So some of you have seen this slide in previous presentations. It really shows how WASD is trying and working towards accelerating our CIP. The bars that you see in green are our historical expenditures or investments in infrastructure, and the blue starting in 22 is what we're projecting. So there is we're purposely accelerating to make sure that we address all of our critical infrastructure and that we meet our regulatory requirements. The consent decree, it's already, I would say, 60% complete. That's what we're telling the EPA and SDEP. It's $1.3 billion that has been spent. Currently, we have a few projects that have been delayed, that are in construction, but have been delayed due to the supply chain issues and cascading effects that creates. But we are well underway in order to complete, and actually we're accelerating so that we complete it before the 15 years. Our goal is to 2027 rather than 2028. And the ocean outflow, you're probably very familiar with this as well. I'm happy to report that all of the projects at South District have already been awarded to a contractor. So good news for us because we're moving forward, not for our folks at operations that have to deal with all of the contractors and what it requires to maintain operations of a wastewater plant while doing construction. But we're well underway, and hopefully by next year we'll be in construction at Central District and at North as well. As everyone is aware, the county and water and sewer and all of the departments are committed to. This is something that it is critical that we partner with our small business. These are local companies that have their resources here. Their employees are part of our community, and if we're doing all of the investments in this community, it's only right that they are our partners and they continue to grow with us. So there was a little bit of a dip there in 2021. We're making that right. As you can see, we're in an upward trend. It is our commitment to the local companies and small business companies that we will continue with that trend going up, and that we will continue to ensure that we do have local participation in all of our contracts. Now a little bit of time to brag. You will probably see in the next few weeks a press release. The department has accomplished something that we have never done before. Our commitment is typically to meet 75% of our annual budget. That has never been done before. This year, so far, we're projecting with 3 months up to the end of September, we're projecting that for the first time, the department is going to meet that goal. And since November 2020, which is the time period that this slide is capturing, we have awarded more than 800 million. 702 million has gone into construction contracts, 23 million in design build, and 108 million in engineering contracts. So that's massive for the department. It really shows that we are not just saying that we are investing, but we're actually doing it. And those are the contracts that prove that that's the case. There's going to be, the director asked for us to have a huge celebration when we reach the $1 billion in construction. So our plan is to be able to share that news with you. I know most of you are involved in the design side, but there wouldn't be construction without design. So please take on that celebration as well, because it is all the hard work of the engineering companies and our partners in order for us to achieve this goal of 700 million in construction. It's huge, and we're excited to continue towards in the projections of meeting those goals. And again, anything that you can tell us in order to improve, to continue in that trajectory, please let us know, because we do want to build a partnership and we do want to hear from you. And with that, I'll turn it to Nancy.
So, good morning, everyone. As you can tell, we've been having these meetings periodically, and we're going to continue to have them periodically. And the reason we're doing this is we really do believe that a partnership with you folks and industry is the best way that our constituents are going to get the best product, right? If you guys are informed, it'll give us a better product. And we're trying to tackle that in a couple ways. On the QR code you see there on the screen, and if you don't get a chance to get it now, you will have another chance later on in the presentation. That's how you join our mailing list for these types of events, the industry forums. We are also enhancing our website, our capital improvements website, with a wealth of information. We spent the last quarter putting together programmatic approaches to everything we're doing. We have a master schedule that is published on the website of everything that's either active or planned in the near future. So whether you're a contractor or you're a designer, you know when we're planning on doing projects. And Of course, that's subject to change, but it will be updated as it changes, probably once a quarter is what we're looking at. On top of that, we're putting together work plans on our website, work plans for the programmatic jobs, probably not the one-off water main that we're doing, but the more programmatic jobs. And the first of which I wanted to talk to you about, and these work plans will also be published on the website so everyone knows, what work is out there, what work is coming, and it'll not only address future contract capacity, but also existing contract capacity. What is out there for your current contract? So the first one is the large diameter force main R&R contract or program. As you can tell, we have almost $230 million of construction costs for antiquated force mains that need renewal and replacement. These are force mains that are 50 years or older in age. And we as a department decided we have capacity with our existing large diameter contracts to address a significant amount of these. We definitely intend to start awarding these immediately under a large diameter contract. The work plan will be up. Right now, we're just trying to finalize and figure out how we're going to package them up. You can tell we already divvied them up by diameter. We're developing the project packages, and we intend to start negotiations under existing contract capacity within the next month. And anything, and basically address hopefully the majority of the $230 million in construction costs with those A&E contracts. Connect to Protect, that is a new program. That is one that we are addressing some with existing contracts from a pre-design perspective, but it's also one that is very much forward-looking from an NTPC, a future NTPC perspective. What you see before you is an excerpt of what the work plan looks like right now. We're still working on finalizing these work plans, like I said, but there's many more atlases, as you can see on the screen on the right-hand side of the map. There's a ton of atlases that need to be addressed. You just see before you, the first 7 that we're actively addressing right now in some form in either pre-design or design efforts, and then the future priorities that are immediate priorities. But this is a program that's going to take place over the next, decade, not over the next, or more than a decade, not over the next 5 years necessarily. Small water main replacement, it's the same as the Connect to Protect. We have also prioritized atlases all over the county. And you can see before you the immediate priorities, the first few we're doing in either pre-design or design efforts. And then the next 7 we plan on doing immediately. But again, there's a slew of atlases that are coming in the future from system betterment and the difference here is not only system betterment, but it's also going to include the consumer line relocation portion of the system betterment. So upsizing or replacing small diameter water mains, as well as doing the consumer line relocation for any meters that are, or service lines that are in easements. So how are we going to address this? Because there's quite a bit of work just in those few work plans that I mentioned that we don't have capacity to address. So what I think you're all here to see today in some way, shape, or form is we have coming up over the next 18 months in excess plan currently in excess of $160 million in A&E fees. Right now, not construction, just A&E, and this is obviously contingent on budget approval, on BCC budget approval, but that shows you how it's divvied up in terms of the ones that you haven't heard of today. So far, you've heard of the standards and specs, you've heard of the South Dade maintenance facility. We're not showing you those there. This is what's coming up in the next 18 months. And as you can tell, we have $30 million over 3 contracts in the water plants, $30 million over 3 contracts in the sewer plants. We have 2 PSAs coming up from the grant-funded projects perspective. That's going to be $10 million for everything water and wastewater treatment, and then $10 million for everything outside the fence, collection and distribution system. And then the largest one of the bulk of the contracts is going to be in collection and distribution systems, and that's going to be 10 contracts for $6 million a piece, right? and a few set-asides, 5 set-asides for $3 million apiece. Now, what's important to note here is it doesn't mean that the other contracts aren't going to have SBE goals. You're definitely going to have SBE goals, but we're also including set-asides for SBEs as well. We're very proud of being one of the departments that help the local business community and the SBEs the most. So the next slide, I'll ask you to bear with me. It's a little bit complicated, but it's the important dates coming up, and these are a little bit sensitive, right? They might change, and we'll definitely notify you if they do. But we want you guys to be aware, so that way you're informed and you're prepared. The first date is July 8th, 2022. And you're going to see it's a little bit different than what we had originally said. We had said that the standards and specs was coming up first, but these meetings, these pre-solicitation meetings, proved to be so engaging that we got a slew of comments from the industry. We've incorporated those comments. So that one kind of, the South Day maintenance facility is coming out ahead of the standards and specs, but that's okay. That's what these meetings are intended to do. So July 8th, we're looking to advertise the NTPC for the South Day maintenance facility. And we're trying to be cognizant of the fact that we don't want to do it before July 4th, and we want you guys to enjoy the holiday. The next date is July 14th, and it is a pre-solicitation meeting for the grant funded projects. It'll be similar to the standards and specs scope review, the South Day maintenance facility. We want to engage with you guys and get feedback, especially on this one. We want you guys to tell us where we might be doing something wrong, because this is something that we're looking for these projects to be able to use federal dollars for design. So if you guys find that we maybe missed something, especially not only in the scope in this case, but also in the requirements that we're looking to do for the job in terms of SBE requirements, veterans preference, things like that, please let us know. We want to have that kind of interaction and that back and forth conversation with you guys. 2 weeks after that, your comments will be due. That's kind of standard. That's how we've been doing it. We'll give you 2 weeks after the meeting to comment, and that'll be on July 28th. On August 5th, we will do the advertisement for the standards and specs NTPC, and what you will see there is that it's a little bit different than what we originally discussed. We have now included BIM standards, BIM to GIS standards, and a pilot of a water plant and a wastewater pump station, a major switch station, like pump station 1, 3, 2, a BIM model. And we're looking at an LOD 350 for those BIM models. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit, the magnitude is a bit larger than what we originally anticipated. The next date, August 25th, we're looking at doing the pre-solicitation meeting for the distribution and collection system. Now, this is going to be a little bit more straightforward. It's the big one. This is the 10 $6 million contracts and 5 $3 million set-asides. It's a scope review, but it is a standard solicitation. This one doesn't have the requirements of meeting a grant-funded project. It's what we do. It's our bread and butter here at WASA. After that, the comments will be due 2 weeks after. And for the folks that are writing out, we'll share this online, so you guys don't have to worry about writing too fast. And after the comments are due on the distribution and collection system, we will be doing a NTPC for the grant-funded projects. That's because there's a lag. Obviously, once you receive the comments, we have to send it to downtown, set SBE goals. There's a bit of a lag, but we're looking to put this out at least by September 9th, if not a little bit earlier, for grant-funded projects. And that's both the treatment and the distribution and collection system. Once all that happens, we're looking to do another industry forum on September 29th. And hopefully there we'll give you a few more updates. We'll share with you the anticipated agenda for that industry forum. And on October 21st, after the budget is approved and contingent on its approval, we are looking to advertise the $75 million worth of distribution and collection system NTPCs. It's worth mentioning for those of you who were in the previous industry forum we had said originally these were coming out in 2023. They're not. It's not that additional ones are coming out in 2023. We're just fast tracking them because we do need the contract capacity. And in November 2022, we're looking to do our last industry forum of the year. Hopefully a celebration, like Maricela said. We're really looking forward to executing and accomplishing our goals. So, with that said, the agenda for the next meeting, we're looking to do a year-end report. Will be 2 years before the close of the, 2 days before the close of the year. So, I think we'll be confident on where we are there. Set the goals for FY22, 2023. We want to talk about the water reset program, right? And the work plan that follows with that. We didn't share that today purposefully. We're still trying to define that work plan a little bit more, but it is an important work plan. One the department is very much focused in everything water reset and water plans. We want to discuss advanced metering infrastructure and where we're going to go with that in the future. And then of course give you the same updates we gave you today, updated schedule solicitations if anything changed, give you a timeline of important dates to expect, give you an update on our work plans Connect to Protect and small water main in case that, once we finalize them, there's some tweaks that we might want to mention, and give you an update on our infrastructure investment and celebrate. So yeah, here's the QR code I promised you again if you guys want to use it to join our mailing list, and we're here to take questions. Omar.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the information. This is Omar with the engineering company. I appreciate so much providing us with the timeline so that we can organize all of this information. It's extremely valuable. Just got a quick question regarding the Connect to Protect program. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the strategy on executing that program?
Absolutely, and that's an excellent question. For the folks online, I'm going to just repeat the questions in person in case you all didn't hear them. To paraphrase it, I think the question is, could we elaborate on our strategy to address a septic to sewer, what we're calling Connect to Protect? And Omar, what you saw on that slide was the preliminary prioritization. I don't expect those projects to change much. Those are the first 14. Our strategy is from a vulnerability perspective. So we're addressing the atlases that have the highest number of vulnerable tanks first. While we're doing that atlas to try to reach economies of scale, we're also addressing non-vulnerable tanks within the same atlas, right? But the order is predicated on what atlas has the highest number of vulnerable tanks. Now, what vulnerable means is, if you look at the report that was issued a few years back from the county, it's basically the proximity to the groundwater table, right? So anything between 24 and 48 inches is considered vulnerable or failing, and those tanks are the ones that are going to be addressed first. It's worth noting, and I forgot to mention this, that's also only for the abutting, the atlases, the laterals, the septic tanks that have abutting sewer systems. There's a slew of septic tanks that are not programmed in the septic to sewer program right now, that it's actually the vast majority of them, probably 90% of the septic tanks in the county that we're not addressing that don't have septic to sewer. So these are just the first 9,000. To put it in perspective, and this is not budgeted or we're not planning it in our budget at the moment, but to put it in perspective, the number that we're looking at for the entire county is $4 billion. But that would include sewering the entire, all 100,000 that are, well, 90,000, right, that are in sewer, but 10,000 have a budding sewer. That's the breadth of the program. We're just looking at the first 9,000, tackling what we can right now, and it's still a massive investment. But the goal is definitely to get connections. Is that a fair response?
Excellent.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
And since my goal today is to celebrate, so I'll give you a kind of a note on Connect to Protect. So in January of this year, our mayor did our first groundbreaking in Connect to Protect. It was a beautiful groundbreaking. Even a dolphin kind of went by right next to the Biscayne Bay. And that was the first project that we broke ground. It was 40 parcels, and the first 11 have been completed. And we learned from that first project. So for instance, one of the things that we learned is that that pipe where we were adding those laterals was lined. And when we went and installed the laterals, the lining on the pipe started to fall off. So something, this is kind of the type of discussions that I'm mentioning, that we start on a project, we have a set budget. Now we have learned that, going forward, when we implement all of these laterals, the 9,000 laterals, part of our due diligence would be to also look into that gravity main that is abutting those properties. Has it been lined? Should it be replaced? What should we do in order to make the project more successful to the residents, right? Because if you live in front of that line and now you see a contractor and then you think that the project ended and the contractor comes again, you start calling people. So that's kind of the things that, I believe we should work together as an industry and pass those lessons, right? Because perhaps you were not part of that project. Now you have a project assigned that is a similar scope, and being able to collaborate and understand. So I think that I would like to say that the first project has successfully been completed. We have many, many more, and we're learning as we go forward. So the next phase of that particular area, which we call the Little River, is to do the actual connections. So you will probably, we'll probably mention to everyone through the mailing list that we have been successful at actually converting. So abandoning those septic tanks and being able to get those customers into our system.
Great. But Eddie, you're monitoring questions online?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the room or online?
A question.
So,
A few years ago, there was a master plan developed by Howard Fallon. What happened to that master plan? Is it?
So I'm going to be very careful how I answer that, because there's currently a current advertisement that is under the Code of Science. It was advertised, what was it, more than a year ago, I believe?
What are we talking about?
The master plan.
about a year ago, yeah.
Integrated master. Okay, so there was an advertisement for an integrated master plan. We're very close to finalizing that advertisement. And bringing forth a recommendation to our director and to BCC to make sure that we do have a consultant on board to assist us with a new master plan. Because as you mentioned, the one from Howard was probably 2013. Things have changed. Development has changed. Intensity of rain has changed. So many factors that are critical to a master plan have changed. So it's our goal to, in the next probably a few weeks, to present a recommendation to our director, then have a consultant on board for the master plan, and be able to address so many of these programs and so many other things that should go into our wastewater and water master plan, as well as reuse, because you can't forget reuse. Although it might not be the most technically and economically feasible answer for the department, it's something that we should always be striving to do more.
If you don't mind, I'll add, I'm particularly very excited about this project. We are looking at doing a reuse plant for Metro Zoom, which would not only be a reuse plant for, reuse purposes and meeting OO measures, but it would be very unique. It would be, there's San Diego, I think, Singapore. There's only a few in the world that address reuse for zoological needs. We're currently doing the basic design for that. And we're trying to make it an exhibit at the park. So hopefully you all can come with us and visit Metro Zoo and walk through the exhibit whenever it's done. Other questions?
I have a question. Eli Perez with Ardura. Do you anticipate, concurrent with the supply chain issue, do you anticipate labor problems with the construction?
Sure.
And what are any activities that you're promoting?
Sure. So for the folks online, the question is how to address labor and material cost escalation with the current environment. And the strategy we're doing right now is we're taking the bids as they are, but we are looking at when we're purchasing goods often, usually their contracts have a purchaser's price index tied to it. So we are awarding escalation, or to be fair, de-escalation, hopefully in the future, based on purchasers price index. In construction, we're looking at establishing the same type of thing in our contracts. So we have not done that to date, but we are looking at various indices, some from, engineering news records, the most reputable indices that we can to try to address that holistically moving forward. Yeah.
And that was a great question, because I wanted to address this with this audience. So every time we award a construction contract, I have to take it to the director for his signature. And the last that he has seen, probably the last 10 or so, they're all, or most of them are above 10% the engineer's opinion of probable cost, right? And that doesn't particularly look good on the engineer that created that OPCC. And there's a lot of questions that follow. And I'm not here, blaming it at all the engineer. On the contrary, I think it's just the market conditions that we have. However, one of the things that we were discussing is typically when we get an opinion of probable cost with your design, months go by until we get bids. So we have been in conversations with the county attorney that you do provide, the engineer that designed the project provides an opinion of probable cost when we go into procurement. But maybe, either 2 weeks or 30 days before opening bids, you have an opportunity to revisit that opinion of probable cost and make any adjustments. Because that way, we're making sure that we're capturing any conditions that may have happened in a period that typically is 3 to 4 months, right? Since the moment you provide that opinion of probable cost, or any other ideas that you may have that may help us, right? Because we had a similar meeting to this with the contractors, and they were saying that FDOT is already doing something regarding price escalation. So to Nelson's point, they have a clause in their contract that if it goes up, they get the additional money. If it goes down, then they subtract from their contract, and they felt that was fair. So things like that maybe other utilities are implementing, other clients that you may have, and you can come up with those ideas or suggestions to us. We'll run it through the county attorney and try to address it. But yes, it is a significant issue that we're seeing. And what we're asking now is every time that we see a bid that is significantly higher, the one that we were discussing yesterday was 45% higher. A lot of people start questioning, like, should we rebid again? And that takes time, right? If the project is critical, or what can we do on our end? So yeah, anything that you can come up with, and maybe we do it as a standard practice that is 2 opinion of probable cost, one at procurement time, and then one 2 weeks ahead of receiving bids or something like that.
Question, Valeria?
Question from Judy.
From whom?
Judy.
Okay. Oh, Judine, would you like to unmute and share your question?
Yes, good morning, Judine Johnson from WSB. First of all, let me take the opportunity to congratulate you on being ahead of the curveball. I think you really do have a lot to celebrate for being able to push out that many projects. My question is regarding the distribution and collection system projects. How are you engaging the local municipalities as you plan and preposition for these projects? I say that from experience because in the past I come from a local government background, and there have been instances where the local governments would like to be involved in merging some of their projects with yours. Are you planning on taking that into consideration in this segment of your projects?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. We are doing that. Really, it's twofold. It depends on the project. The first thing we're doing is we have established, and we are expanding our JPA program. So we are actively talking to municipalities. In fact, we have one right now with the village of Key Biscayne that we are trying to establish a new JPA with them and be able to do work in that form. Now, though the work that comes out of there would likely be procured by the municipality, and then we would pay the municipality directly, similar to how we do with FDOT. The other way we're doing that is with the programmatic jobs, such as small water main replacement for the consumer line relocation aspect especially, but even for the permitting in the right of way, the septic to sewer program, Connect to Protect. We have engaged in discussions with the municipalities that we are affecting from the county perspective. We invite our consultants to be part of them, but from the county perspective, we engage in a partnership and let them know, hey, this is happening, even not only municipalities, but even our own sister departments. We tell them, hey, this is happening. We need this to go seamlessly. We understand that there's nuances to everything. For example, something like Connect to Protect, if there's liens on the building permit or the building, you can't get a building permit to do the job. Well, what we tell them is this is a public infrastructure job. WASA is doing it. Can we work something out so we don't have the liens affect us? And so far, they've all been very receptive. I don't know that we've solved all the nuances and all the issues. I think, that's what we're here for, to make sure that they get resolved. But they have been receptive, and I think that the partnership is established with most municipalities, and will continue to do so with the rest.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Other questions? No one online? Anyone else? Good. One last check online.
Yeah, I can ask a follow-up question to the question that you just asked, and it's would that coordination with stakeholders and municipalities will also be part of the scope of the projects?
So the question is, and I'm assuming it's for the programmatic projects or in general. So the question is, would the consultants be expected to coordinate with the stakeholders and municipalities? And the answer is absolutely yes. The consultants are responsible to procure the permits. In fact, we are evaluating whether consultants, I did this in a previous slide, whether consultants should be the permittee on the permit. Not just an agent acting on the county's behalf. The county would be the owner, but the consultant would be the permittee. That way we all are in a partnership, and we're all we're all on that permit, responsible to the entity issuing that permit to make sure the job gets done. So most definitely, we believe, I'm a strong believer that I want to give you all the tools to make you guys successful, but also the county would be expecting accountability from the engineer of record performing the job.
Thank you.
We have a question from Edmundo.
Sure. Edmundo, do you want to unmute and share the question, Edmundo? Mundi, could you hear us?
No, really. I can admit.
We're all ears. Come back. He's unmuted?
Is there?
He's unmuted? Mundi, you can speak.
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. My question is, for the standards, would you be considering any smart technology, since everything nowadays is turning into smart cities and smart technologies and manipulation of information, automatization and so forth? Would the standard consider any improvement towards that end?
So, it's a bit of a loaded question. The answer, I think, the answer to your question is, in terms of smart cities, no, because AMI is off on its own track, and that's really the component of water and sewer that's part of smart cities. But there will be a slew of smart technologies that we will be looking at in the standards, and that would include instrumentation at the plants, at our pump stations, things of that nature that are above and beyond just the typical component of smart cities that everyone associates with water and sewer, which is advanced metering infrastructure. So it's, I'm saying yes and no, but that is the answer.
No, I get it. I think that was exactly my question, because it wasn't intended so much of users maybe for the AML project, but it was more intended as maybe pump station controls and those side of a smart system that it can tell you, I don't know, a pump is off, or it can tell you something that is wrong with it, and you get kind of a notification towards this smart technology system that we have nowadays.
And that's why the scope, I thought was expansive from just a standards perspective from the beginning, but it's expanded beyond that because we do want to make sure that we have the automation and technology to properly operate, the significant investment we're making, as Marisela pointed out earlier, it's 7.8 billion, and might expand. So we want to make sure that we do have that advanced technology to operate it properly.
Thank you.
Other questions? No one? You all? All right. Thank you everyone for joining today. We really appreciate your time. The meeting will be posted on the website, and we will share a link, Valeria, once it's posted. Make sure everyone sees it, and of course, we'll be sending updates. Reminding you of the dates that we went over, the critical dates that are coming up, which it's a lot of them before the end of the year. All right. Thank you, everyone.